What's going on YouTube? It's okmall. In today's guide, I'm going to be covering the Yana Electromancy build that I did over the past month. We're going to cover the stat points as well as the ability points and at which levels I recommend you picking them up. That being said, however, I did pick up my skills in a little bit different order, so I am tweaking it to where I think it would make more sense, judging by the experiences that I was having throughout the playthroughs. So let's start with the easiest one, and that would be the stat points here. Now, during my playthrough, I wanted to get me a little bit more range on my character so that way I could fire jolts from a much further distance. And so I actually went into perception up to 20 before popping down into willpower. The only problem I had with that is while yes, I had more distance, my skills energy cost was also much higher on my character. So by the time I started building in the willpower, my level increasing was slowing down just because that we're such a high level now. And all my skills were just starting to cost an arm and a leg, especially some of the higher tier ones. I mean, 17 isn't bad now, but it was up to like, I don't know, 40 energy cost towards the late game when I first unlocked it, which is insane. There's a ton of energy cost there. But what I would say probably now in hindsight is actually start off with perception still, go up to 15. Like I said, you could probably go with willpower without a problem, but I think a little bit extra range is also nice to have. So go 15 perception and then pop into willpower all the way up to 20 and then go to 20 on perception, give you that additional range. Right now, without this on, the range of my jolt is 9 tiles, but the moment you get a tier 5 court diadem, it gives you +1 range. But because I'm far enough in the game, I do have this one that gives our range all the way up to 10. Now I will say that ball lightning still has a very short range of 4. Not as easy to kind of utilize as I wish it was, but what are you gonna do, right? So in my opinion, having a little bit extra range is definitely helpful. If we're talking about like how to run this in the early game and how you would want to do it typically, like I said, we're just trying to get a little extra range. So you're primarily just gonna be attacking things, running away every 2 tiles, zapping things until they get close to you. And then you're probably gonna impulse, run away, jolt. You get the idea. Whack them a couple times with your staff. That's essentially the early game. It's just to kind of keep away from the enemies. Also, be mindful of the backfire damage and the backfire chance. When you are luring enemies and attacking them one by one like this, your backfire does rack up pretty quickly. It's not racking up for me. Oh, there it goes. Now it is. Barely won. Did they make a change in the game since last I played? No, backfire is 60%. It's just 60% of 2 energy is going to be very little damage. So, but yeah. So now that we've covered the stat points and kind of like what I recommend, again, 15, back down here to 20, back to 20, and then finish it all off with the rest of your build all the way up to 30 as you max out your character's level. So the next thing we need to cover is going to be the abilities and at which levels I would recommend you pick them up. Now, this is a pure Electromancer build, so there's 0 weaponry skills. If you would like to and dive into weapon, some like staves or something like that, that's entirely up to you, but that's not what this build is about. It is strictly Electromancy, full-on mage build. Okay, and I say that because with the gear that we're using, its main purpose is to increase your magical power, crit chance, or miracle chance, miracle potency. Okay, decreasing your backfire, decreasing your energy cost and cooldowns. If you take a hit with this, it's gonna hurt. Like our defenses, 3 protection, 3% dodge chance, no block chance. So if you're following this guide, follow this guide. Don't just be like, I'm gonna go melee. It's not gonna work. All right, so now that we've kind of covered that, again, no weaponry skills. We go on the line. I'm just gonna showcase what we have. We have dash because we do not want enemies to get too close. We want to be able to have some sort of an escape, especially if you're playing on permadeath. Get out of dodge when you need to, especially in the later game when enemies have a lot more dash maneuvers. Think about the Mage Hunter. It's a 5-tile dash plus a 5-tile onrush ability. They are the scariest enemies I've fought in the entire game with a mage user at the moment, so pretty frightening stuff there. Armored combat, nothing. Survival, I love Pathfinder with a mage or a range dealer, heck, just in general having Pathfinder, because knowing where your enemies are is quite advantageous to you. You don't want to pop into a situation where you are aggroing an enemy, and as soon as they see you, they aggro 5 others. That's not going to really benefit us. In the later game, it doesn't really matter because Electro actually does more work, or does a better job when there are multiple enemies around, so you can resonate them. Essentially, you'll jolt one target, jolt another target, and then you'll either chain lightning or you'll or you'll short circuit, you'll static field, you'll apply all these enemies that are resonating, and you'll deal more damage to them with these other skills. And I'll cover those skills in more detail, but as of right now, we're just kind of covering some of the basics. If we're looking down to Magic Mastery, I basically got the entire tree unlocked outside of a couple of them. I don't think you're ever going to need Body and Spirit. It doesn't make sense. We're not going to be doing any sort of melee, so I could say just X that off your list. Later down the road, yeah, I could probably get Seal of Shackles to help me, but most enemies die before we even need to use this, so who cares about it, right? Electromancy, I got the entire thing unlocked. It takes so long to get this. I'm level 26, chat. And that's all of my skills. And yet, level 26, this whole thing's unlocked. And this whole thing's just about unlocked. Let's talk about a couple of these skills here. So we have Seal of Power. It's pretty obvious. If you pop Seal of Power, right there, it's going to enable Seal of Power, which is just going to give you Arcane, bonus range, magical power. But as soon as you use any other skill, it changes to Seal of Electromancy. Now, Seal of Electromancy adds shock damage, negative fumble, electromagnetic power, and -4 backfire chance. Now, I like this one. In the earlier game, I like to get it before I get Seal of Finesse, because I can move around with this one and zap, move around and zap. You get the idea. Seal of Finesse is fine, especially when you start to get a little bit more range on your character and you're able to actually sit in place for a while, because you have to sit in place before it racks up. And as you can tell, I'm holding in place here. Backfire damage is -40%. Backfire damage change is -20. Cooldown duration is increasing. So we're up to max stacks here, and we got -15 fumble, -15 for backfire chance, -40 for the backfire damage. But the moment I move, and have to move, and you're going to have to move a lot with a character like this, and I'll even talk about it one more time. Let me rack it up. If you dash, look at how many stacks it lost. So it's harder, in my opinion, to keep this up in the early to mid game when enemies are coming to you and you can't kill them fast enough. So I think Seal of Power has a little bit more benefit over Seal of Finesse when it comes to like which one to get first. Then there's Precise Movements, which says each ability point invested in a sorcery skill grants -1 backfire chance and armor penetration to all of the spells. Remaining on the same tile will also help decrease your backfire chance. So again, if you're just waiting in place, let me see if there's a skill with backfire. You see how it's going down? Well, oddly enough, it's... Oh, right. It just decreased. It's fine. I think I know what I'm doing here. Let me zap. Okay, so we have 14% at 14. And then if we go all the way down here, 3% backfire chance, 85% backfire damage. Remaining on the same tile will decrease by 3%, stacking up to 3 times. Let's move around a little bit. Okay, so we're 17. So it's at 20%. I can stack it up 3 times. 1, 2, 3. All the way down to 11% by standing still. So that's -9% backfire chance just by doing it that way. which again, it's all worth it. It's all kind of stacks and works together. And that puts my backfire down to 0. They said in the patch notes it's supposed to go under into the negatives, but I don't see that. At least on paper, it's not showing into negatives. I wish it would, so you know how much negative you're actually gaining. But whatever, I guess. They'll have to fix that. All right, so now moving on. There's another one that I have a love-hate relationship with, and that's going to be Seal of Insight. It's a great skill and all. The problem is mobility. It really locks you in place. If you want to take full advantage of this, and like I said, it's great. It's a great skill. You rack it all the way up to 4, and you have 40% additional magical power, 20% miracle chance, energy restoration of 80%, and negative 20 skill cost. When you get as high of level as I am, all of these skills, while they're better and they're beneficial, it doesn't really mean that we need to stay here for any length of time. Like our skill energy cost, just because of arcane lore, is already going to be super low, and just by popping Seal of Finesse and waiting in turn and losing like 12% cooldown duration is already plenty. I don't see myself using Seal of Insight as much in the later game, again, just because enemies are coming towards you, and a lot of them have dashes, charges, tongue poles, even teleportations. There's rangers. You got to stay on the move a lot, but it's good regardless. Now, lingering incantations, this is one of my favorite ones, mainly because it lasts or makes all of your spells last that much longer. So if we look over here and we pop Seal of Power, it's supposed to last for 5 turns. It's lasting for 13 turns, right? This one's supposed to last for 10 turns. It's lasting for 12, oddly enough. But either way, like the things that last longer, because I think I have Seal of Reflection. It's supposed to be 8 turns. It's 22 turns. I think it crit. That's not helpful if it crits on me. Just trying to show an example here, chat. 10 turns. So you see how it's weird, right? So it can last anywhere. It can be more or less. I don't know what the difference is, honestly. Seal of Cleansing, pop that off. I don't know. You get the idea. Thaumaturgy, I love this one as well. Grants all spells more miracle chance, miracle potency. It's great. And miracles will reduce all your spell cooldowns by 1 turn. Apply all enemies within vision. Negative magic resistance and negative nature by 5 turns. Can stack twice. Then you have Dissipation. This is just a defensive one. Recovers your energy and your magical or nature resistance by 5 turns. Can stack up to 20 times. We already covered Seal of Power. Seal of Cleansing, you already seen it. It just kind of cleanses off any of the, destroys summon tiles, but also cleanses yourself. Removes all your magical, physical magical effects, as well as replenishing 4% maximum health and energy for each removed effect. Seal of Reflection, it's another defensive maneuver. If you need to pop it for like mages that are attacking you or range damages that are attacking you, it's a good one to have. And this one, obviously, super awesome. You get it at level 22. I've never really got it any earlier than 22, but it grants 0.5% magical power, negative 0.5 spell energy cost, negative 0.5 cooldown duration, and 1 miracle potency for each ability point invested in skill magical skill trees. So every point that you see here and every point you see here adds to that. It's just basically take how many skills you've invested and take these numbers and times it by that many, and that's how much you're going to get. So with that being said, if we look on down, this is where I got my magical potency, magical power. A mixture of that, my stats, my skills, and my gear is how we're getting to these numbers here. If we look on down, energy cost is at 74, minus 47. Cooldowns are at 42 right now. They obviously get much lower than that. If I pop on Seal of Finesse and I wait in place, you'll notice it goes even lower to as low as 27.5. It's pretty insane. Not bad at all. And then lastly, we have the electromagnetic tree here. So we'll notice Jolt. This is the bread and butter. We're going to use this skill a lot for 90% of the time. It essentially applies enemies with resonance. Now, enemies that are resonating you're going to want to apply multiple enemies with resonation. And the reason for it is a lot of your skills are going to be based on that. So this one, you'll notice that there's these two skills here are grayed out right now. And the reason for that is they require a resonating target to be within your vision. Now, your targets that are resonating don't have to be within your range, right? So long as they're within vision, you can use this skill as well as static field. You just got to see them and it'll apply the effects to them. Now, short circuit's a really, really strong skill. It might not seem that strong because it's like, oh, 15 shock damage is not a lot. What it does, though, is when there's two enemies adjacent to each other, it starts to hit really, really hard. It even says at the bottom here, if resonating targets are adjacent to each other, the spell deals double damage to them. The spell's damage is also increased by 25% for each resonating target. So right now you have 15, you're going to double that damage to 30, add 25% for each resonating target within your vision. You're going to start racking up a lot of damage on this. Then you have static field. This one doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it's really comes in clutch early game, especially just as much as it does late game. Now in early game, I actually chose short circuit over static field. But what I found was in the early game, it was much harder to utilize short circuit and get enemies side by side because I was not trying to pull more than one or two enemies just because I knew my damage wasn't enough to kill them. So yeah, it was really difficult to get two enemies resonating and then pop this up before they get to me. And next thing you know, if they do get to me and I've got them resonating, now I got to worry about how much damage they're dealing. It's a whole mess, right? Static field, as soon as I got that, which was again later down the road, once I got this, much easier time. I would recommend highly getting static field as soon as you can over short circuit for the simple fact that when you use static field, it will help immobilize enemies in place, allowing you to still keep your distance and then keep on just shooting them in the face with your jolt spell. And then eventually, yeah, you're going to still want to get short circuit for those really, really big damage numbers, right? Potential difference is one of those things that I don't see much use in, primarily because impulse is such a silly skill for a mage. I really wish that this passive here was maybe down a little bit longer and it was changed to allow us to impulse enemies from a distance, similar to how these other two skills work. Basically change this to a range skill, whether it's a range that requires a certain amount of distance or whether it's one that's just within vision. Just allow me to use it from a distance. It's such a powerful skill that you get zero use out of it unless you're doing melee a lot. In late game, you're not going to want to do melee basically at all. What else? There's ball lightning. I found myself not using ball lightning as much as I would like, primarily because of the 4 range distance. It's such a hard one to utilize. Typically, if I'm going to use it, I use it in a way that forces enemies to move around its radius. So you'll notice that the radius is like, I think 2 tiles away from it. So it forces them to step out of it and walk all the way around. Now, if you put it in a doorway, yeah, some enemies, depending on where they're located, will walk on through it. And you can just keep on blasting them with spells. So that's another hard one to take advantage of. Then you have conductivity. While the targets are within your static fields, AoE, it'll burn their energy for 20% of the shock damage. Now, these don't do that much shock damage, but what it will do is actually increase its damage when there's multiple enemies nearby that are have the static field debuff. As it procs twice. So let's say there's just 2 enemies and they both are side by side. The next, if you wait a turn, it'll do, let's say, 2 damage times 2, right? So 2 and 2 to both enemies every single time that they're adjacent to each other. So not a lot of damage, but because it can, immobilize them and decrease their shock resistance, it's a really good skill to have to empower your other skills and just allow you to get away. Moving on, there's Chain Lightning, a really, really powerful skill. Now, I've been using this wrong the whole playthrough because I just didn't read it correctly, because it never used to be this way. Old habits, right? It used to be like you could only apply Chain Lightning when you have resonated targets, and then it would bounce between resonating targets. Now it says deals 23 shock damage with 184% chance to apply the target with resonance. So you can apply an enemy with resonance, and then the jumping portion of it, it'll jump to all resonating targets. So the way I should have been using this, let's say there's an enemy right here. I would resonate this person. Oops. I would resonate somebody, and then leave the last one. So resonate with maybe 2 or 3 people, and then the last individual who's not resonating, zap him so it jumps to everybody else. Versus, let's say there's 4 enemies. Instead of resonating all 4 of them, right? I instead just resonate 3 and then use the last one who's not resonating to apply resonance to him and bounce it off. So used it wrong the whole time. Unlimited power, I don't really see this being that useful. I'll be honest, at late game, I'm hardly ever low on energy. As you can tell, most of my skills are very, very low on energy cost. I got 17, 3, 21, 5, 7. I mean, most of that stuff is so low, and I recover energy like every 2 turns. Ridiculous. So not very useful, but you need it to unlock the bottom skill tree, which I really, really hate the fact that you need all of these to unlock the bottom. It's so silly. On the bottom row, there's a few call outs here to make. Resonating Cascade is probably one of the skills that I wish would be either a little bit higher or not require all of these to be unlocked before you can get it. And there's a big reason for it. Each third use of the ability tree's spells has a chance to apply resonance for 3 turns to a random target within vision. So it really helps when there's a lot of enemies that as you're trying to get them resonating, that you're not going to have to apply resonance to the last individual. It'll just get applied because you're using your skills. But it's, again, locked behind all of these other skills, which really, really stinks. And then it says that there's no such targets. It'll prolong your resonance or impulse, affecting randomly resonating targets within vision. You've got chain reaction. Using these ability tree spells applies all affected targets with -10 shock resistance. Also a really good one. You can get it stacked up to 3 times. You've got recharge. Grants 3% miracle chance for each resonating target within your vision. Another really, really strong passive here. Killing enemies with ability tree spells grants -5 energy cost, -5 cooldown for each resonating target within vision. And then the last one I'll cover here is Tempest. Tempest is one of those kind of like, you're going to want to kill them at the end of their ropes kind of thing. Don't use it right away typically. Try to rack up some resonating stacks before you do this. The idea would be that if you're going to use it, you're going to try to get them killed. If you look at the very bottom, it'll instantly kill an enemy. If the target's health is below 16%, but no more than 46 HP. And then obviously it's going to remove all of your resonating stacks as well. So what it says is deal 27 shock damage to the chosen targets and 2 random targets, prioritizing the ones that are resonating. It'll remove resonance from the affected targets with a 22% chance to stun them. Then it says each turn of removed resonance increases the damage and stun chance by 5%. So if you have 10 stacks, you got like 50% additional damage and stun chance. So pretty wild. So that should cover all the skills in depth, but now I'm going to show you an overview of each level that I would probably recommend getting skills unlocked as you level up an Electromancy character. All right, here I have the 4 ability trees that I utilized in my playthrough. And again, we're not even level 30 yet, so it's not maxed out. So I did this a little bit differently than I did my previous ones, primarily because it just depends on what you can get unlocked based on if you have skill books that you've picked up that you've looted, or if you haven't got any skill books. So I based it on if you don't have luck to find some skill books and get them unlocked a little bit earlier. This is just based on stat point allocation. And if you're following what I did, my stat point allocation would be perception and willpower. Starting off 15 perception, popping in to get a 20 willpower, back to 20 into perception, and back into finish off willpower all the way up to 30. If you're doing it that way and you don't, again, get skill books, level 1, I would probably say, now again, this is all up in the air. This is just my opinion. You have room to wiggle, but level 1, 100% get Jolt. As far as your second skill, it's up to you whether you get Seal of Power, Impulse, Seal of Finesse. I would say between those 3 skills is all up in the air and how you do it. I just went with jolt and impulse because enemies are bound to get close to us. And when they do get close, we can impulse them. And typically by the time they do get close enough and we impulse, we have one more hit with a staff and they're dead, right? When it comes to Seal of Power and Seal of Finesse, between these two skills, I would say Seal of Power has more use because we're constantly on the move. Until we get a little bit higher level, we're gonna zap, walk away, zap, walk away, zap, walk away. We can't really utilize Seal of Finesse for something like that since Seal of Finesse requires us to stand still before we can rack up stacks. And the moment we start moving, the stacks go away until this skill is ultimately gone and you have to wait to then use it all over again. So this one has way more use for us. And then we move on to level 3. Now again, I already just talked about it. This one has less use. So it's up to you to determine whether you want Seal of Finesse or precise movements. They both basically do the same thing in terms of like lowering backfire chance. This one obviously gives you more benefits, but requires you to be stationary. So it's kind of up in the air. Now at this stage, you should be able to unlock Pathfinder. I do believe it unlocks with perception, if not automatically unlocks by like level 3 or something like that. But I thoroughly enjoy Pathfinder for the ability to find enemies. So you could probably even swap in Pathfinder for Seal of Finesse in the early game just to give you that distance so you can hear the enemies. So I don't know if it's level 3 or level 4 this gets unlocked, but if you see this gets unlocked and you'd rather sub that in for one of the other ones, completely fine. Now you'll notice I didn't put level 6 on there, so essentially by level 6 you're probably going to be holding on to a skill point unless you can find a tier 2 treatise in Magic Mastery or Electromancy. And the way I would look at it is prioritize this skill here, which is Static Field, first. And then I would prioritize Short Circuit, followed by Seal of Insight. I put these all at level 7. Mainly because they all unlock naturally. If you're doing precision and willpower builds, it'll unlock naturally just by putting skill points in by, I do believe, level 7. So again, prioritize Impulse, Short Circuit, and then Seal of Insight. Because Seal of Insight and Seal of Finesse share the same flaw. You have to stand still to kind of make use of it. And then by that time, at level 9, you're going to start getting into athletics. If you haven't got a book for it yet, go ahead and buy a book for it, at least a tier 1 book. It's like 150 or something like that. And then you're going to unlock number 9, which is Disengage, followed by Dash. I want Dash by level 10 because we're going to start having to get away from enemies who do have a charge maneuver, and this is going to help us stay away from those guys. At level 11, we get Lingering Incantations. This is one of my favorite skills when it comes to having things last longer. Again, having Resonance last a longer time is immense. It's so good. Same thing with Seal of Power, Seal of Finesse. Having those stacks last much longer is great for us. By level 12, we have to get this skill because it is required to unlock Chain Lightning. But then by level 13, we're going to get the skill right below Static Field because it's going to help Static Field be a little bit better. Now, I would also argue that you can do Chain Lightning. The only issue I had is by level 14, and by the time I got Chain Lightning, my gear still wasn't that great. So my energy reduction from the gear wasn't enough to really sustain this skill. It cost a lot and had a huge backfire chance, and it was doing more damage to me than it was good because I was going around zapping enemies and then trying to use Chain Lightning after it. And if I'm in situations where I have to cast a lot of spells back to back, this was actually hurting me more than it was damaging the enemies typically. So I put it in the back burner and didn't really use it much. 15, we're going to get this skill because again, I don't think there's much use of it. It just helps out Impulse, and I don't see Impulse being of that much use. Then we get Ball Lightning, which is going to help us to hopefully block the enemies from coming to us. But again, it's such a short range of 4. It's really hard to make full use of it. Now 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, straightforward. This one here is going to allow us as a thaumaturgy. It gives us more crit. It helps us reduce our abilities by doing a crit. Then you have to go all the way down to get Arcane Lore. Super powerful skill. Even after the nerf that they did, it's still great. I would still recommend getting it as soon as you can. And because I want to get it as soon as I can, and I know for a fact it'll unlock at level 22 naturally, we're going to do 17, 18, 19, 20. And because we can't do anything else here, we have to wait another level. I'm going to go over here to unlock this skill, which isn't that great, to be honest, but we need it, and it is required because you see the little diamond to unlock the bottom row. But yeah, 21, 22, bam, we got arcane lore. Now, I put it like this simply because it's up to you at this point in the game. Everything's dying. You've probably got enough gear to blast spells without a care in the world. So it's entirely up to you guys on how you do this. But I thought 23, this one here, this is the skill that allows us to resonate targets on every third cast. So if we're casting spells, it'll resonate some random target. Makes our lives a little bit easier to allow us to have our targets around the map resonate just naturally, and then allows us to use chain lightning and the other skills that we have available to us without having to constantly cast jolt everywhere. Then you have Tempest. It's a huge skill. We covered it already. And then you have the following two passives that we covered. Up to you guys at that point. Like I said, I never put these guides together as a one shoe fits all kind of thing. It's up to you to make some decisions. Just use this as a reference, not as a definite guide like this is the only way to do it. I guess lastly, I can briefly cover some of the gear options that I have chosen. These are completely up to you, and I know I'm pretty sure we got some new staves with the brand new update, though I haven't seen any, so I don't know what's available to us, but I'm just going to cover what I grabbed up. I did grab up a pyromancy staff, and you might be thinking, though, that's weird. I know, it is weird. I don't know what's better. I didn't test anything out. I just went with this one because of the massive amount of miracle potency that it's available for it versus the small amount of electromatic power. I don't know what's better, having a larger crit or having a little extra electromatic power. I don't know. Under this one, we went for the electromatic mantle. I didn't find anything really that much better for us. On top of that, it just gives us electromatic power of 10%. I went with the Ruby Mage Bracers or Tier 5s. They give us 5% cooldown duration. Love the cooldown reduction. On top of Magic, Miracle Chance, and nobody cares about Bleed or Physical. Then we got the Ruby Ring for additional cooldown duration. I found this, figured what the hey, put it on. It's -5 cooldown on top of Health Restoration, Energy Resto. We have the Diamond Talisman. Doesn't have any cooldown duration, but it does give us huge amounts of magical power, miracle chance. We got the Court Mage Boots. That'll give us a 25% fatigue resistance, which is lovely to have when you're constantly casting spells. On top of that, we have negative energy cost, large amounts of energy resto, miracle potency, and backfire chance reduction. I got the Court Mage Belt with miracle chance potency, backfire chance reduction. And then again, I think this is one of the best in slots for most mages, and that's because of the bonus range, adding 1 additional range on top of 20 miracle power, 4 miracle chance, and 15 miracle potency alongside -5 cooldown. Amazing stuff right there. Now then, let's go ahead and show the build off a little bit and show exactly what I mean. I'm currently at a tier 4. So again, what we're looking at, we have 2 enemies here, and typically what you're going to want to do, and I'm just late game here, I'm just going to go ahead and zap this guy and then zap the other one who's out of range. So I'm just going to keep on zapping this guy apparently. If I hit him, I did. So now these both are resonating, and you can see that. That's this resonation buff right here. It's on both of these guys. I usually hit them with, again, static field. You'll notice it only did 5 damage, but what it also does is help decrease their shock resistance. So it's going to continue to do that. And now they're pretty close, so you can actually stack them with chain lightning. And as you notice, it hit twice. Pretty good damage too. And now from there, I can just do short circuit. Obviously it does better damage when they're close by, but 41 and 47 is not bad. And as you notice, we barely used any energy. Most of my energy came back without a problem. So I'm gonna zap this guy here. He's resonating, got knocked back. And then we're just gonna keep on zapping him. He's not doing anything else. I'm gonna do impulse. Now, this is one of those enemies that actually makes it easy enough, or actually makes it worthwhile to actually do Seal of Insight. You do Seal of Insight, you step on in Seal of Insight, and what he does is he puts down one of these little markers, but he can't put it on your tile because he's already, you know, it's already occupied, right? And now there's two enemies side by side, so you zap this guy. He got knocked back. We're gonna knock this guy back again. Oh, we just killed him. I was trying. Whatever. 68. There we go. Now he's doing it's like 10 damage from static field, and static field is lasting for 7 turns. I think it normally lasts for like 3 or 4 turns when you first get it before you get lingering incantations. 11 damage, 12 damage. Yeah. So we're standing on top of one of these seals, and we have an overall damage modifier 245, 52, 122. So pretty wild. That room's going to be empty. Now, this is where we can hear all the enemies because of Pathfinder, and this is why I love the skill so much, is it allows you to actually hear the enemies before they can see you. So this allows me to open... Oh, that's a Gurud. We do not want to mess with a Gurud. I'm going to run away. And this is a good opportunity to actually utilize Ball Lightning. You put it down, enemies are going to stay away. Typically. He seems like he wants to be involved in everything. Zap. Fall back. Zap him. And now I'm going to chain... actually, I'm going to hit number 7. Try to get them immobilized. Alright, he's not mobilized. Now I'm going to go ahead and... Number 6, which was, again, short circuit. They weren't side by side like I wanted. We still did adequate damage. Oh. Hit a chair. Oh my god, that chair is going to ruin me. Okay, I got 2 people. Now they're side by side. See how much more damage it was? With no crit, though. So now I got 3 of them. We're going to chain lightning the last guy, which is this dude right here. So it's going to apply resonance and a bounce. Look at that. And then I can... I think I can short circuit again. I can. So 1, 2, 3, 120, 221, massive damage. I don't want to go too much further than that. You guys got to get the idea on how to play this. It's essentially that. Oh, that freaking chair is going to be the end of me. Now they're both resonating. So again, you could either do that. So I got this guy immobilized. And then go into chain lightning. Good damage. Just like that. Simple. So I hope you all found today's guide helpful. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and family. I'll catch y'all next time. Bye.